Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I come to converse a little bit and give you a little up-to-date information with regards to what's going on here in the town of Littleton. First of all, I want to take this moment to pass on some information with regards to the passing of a former COA member, Barbara Camp. Barbara Camp was a member of the COA for many, many years. And she was on the committee with me and Louise to appoint the next set of officers for the COA. We didn't have nobody that was interested in taking the chair. So she said, George, you should do it. I said, no, I'm not really interested in it because Louise was the vice chair at that time, and Louise didn't want to take it. She wanted to stay the same as the vice chair. So she talked me into taking it. So I taken it and served as chair for about 10 years there. Please keep her family in prayer. She certainly is going to be missed because she did the acting with the COA fall show that they used to put on back a few years ago, and she was really good at that. Also, I want you to remember the former chairperson of the COA, Marge Payne. She is ill at this time, and she needs prayers, and also keep her family in prayer as well. We wish that we can all pray for others when there's a time of need. And now we have a time of need here that we can pray for two families and their members here. And I want to thank you for doing that. Now I would like to take the opportunity now and discuss the debt exclusion of Shaker Lane School. As you well know, they had a meeting last night, a joint meeting of Select Board, FinCom, School Committee, and the School Department. And I guess that meeting went on for about 3 hours. And I attended and had the opportunity to speak with regards to Shaker Lane. Right now, we know exactly what the numbers are in terms of what the debt is going to be for the town to build this new school. The cost for the school, they got it down from 104.2 million to 98.1 million. The state came in before, we was talking about 29.5. The state was very, very nice to the town of Littleton by giving them another $8.7 million, bringing it up to $38.2 million. 38%, a little over 38%. That is good. We should be thankful that the state came through and gave us that kind of money. So when we subtract the 38.2, it leaves a net cost of $59.9 million. And of that $59.9 million, during construction, they're going to do about $11 million with the various loans and so forth and so on. And then FY30, they're going to wrap everything up and go in for a loan with a certain interest rate for the next 20 years to pay off their debt. If you balance the 11 million from the 59.9, it leaves 48.9. That's still a lot of money. Now we got to talk about the interest. As I said before in the previous show that I had, you know, it's one thing to tell us that it's going to be a net cost of X dollars, but you know, even last night, they never told you roughly how much the interest is for that 59. Their numbers are a little bit different than mine, but it was 59 something or $50.9 million. You have to give the people the whole picture. Don't give them some of the picture. So on my figures that I had, that I'm using, I come up with 48.9, which is a little bit different than the figure 50 that they had. And the interest for that is $28.6 million. So what is the taxpayers going to be responsible for TOLA? TOLA, the taxpayer is going to be responsible for $77.5 million. That is what it's going to cost taxpayers over a 20-year period. On that figure of 77.5, with the interest added in there, what would be roughly the annual payment? The annual payment would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $3.880 million. $3,880,000 would be roughly. I think they figure come in is select about 4 on the annual payment. But in the token, use the figure of 77.5 is what has to be paid principal plus interest. I want to talk a little bit, which they talked last night, and I mentioned last night as well, about, you know, building Shaker Lane School now versus doing it later. I don't foresee things getting cheaper. If we delay it, the fallout from it would be we would lose our space with the state on the state school building list that they have of communities. And I will also point out to you, the state, the Massachusetts School Board Authority has a lot of money. My last recollection as to what they had in their kitty was over $8 billion. So really they could give a little bit more money if they wanted to. But how their system operates is that if a community is well off, you're going to get less money. We're getting less money now from the school board because now we have a lot of homes in this town of Littleton that cost over $1 million. Every sales tax that is paid, 1 cent of that tax goes to the Massachusetts School Board Association, Authority rather. 1 penny out of every sales tax that is paid, 1 penny go to them. That's why they have so much money up there. That's how it's funded, through the sales tax of 1 cent out of every tax that is paid. It's important for us to understand that it is not the best time to build a school because of so many things that's going on in the economy. the interest rate and so forth. Currently, right now, the interest rate, the Federal Reserve, is 4.25 to 4.50. So it's very high at this point. And they're looking at maybe the 5%, hoping that maybe we can get a good deal, and maybe it'd be a little bit lower. I know the chairman is looking at maybe lowering that reserve rate, but we'll have to wait and see. President Trump has been on him about lowering it for some time now. He even asked him to resign so he could get somebody in there that will lower it. But the thing that we need to understand is that it is not a great time, but yet instead, we cannot sit on our hands and do nothing. That school needs to be replaced. There's no question in my mind whether or not that school needs to be replaced. It needs to be replaced. It is a school that is not adequate, although we still send children there and teach there, but it's lacking a lot of things for a building to be up to par. It is hard when it comes to spending money, and when you as a voter has to vote on it. It requires, when you're buying something, or purchasing something, or building something, you're spending money, so it requires a 2/3 vote. We will need a 2/3 vote at the town meeting on October the 28th to pass the Shaker Lane School. And then on the 1st of November, it goes on the ballot. And at the ballot, all it needs to achieve is a majority vote there. And then it will be set to get going. I'm asking you, ladies and gentlemen, that are voters that will be coming to the town meeting. I know that some of you may not have kids in the school. Some of you do. Some of your kids has went through that school of Shaker Lane. But you know, it is our responsibility as adults and parents is to educate our pupils. We need to provide them with the resources that they need to be able to learn well. So I am pleading to you to please think about the children. They look for us to do the right thing by them. And if we train them well, the Bible tells us they will not depart. So when they become parents, they will do the right thing by children that they have or children that's in the schools and so forth and so on. It is important for us to do the right thing by the children. And at this time, I'm asking you as a parent, because my 3 kids went through the school of Shaker Lane. There's always going to be the need to upgrade certain things about the town needs. And schools probably are one item that goes for a great period of time before you really have to do anything about a school. That school has passed the mark of replacement. Years ago, that school should have been replaced, if they was going to replace it. I had one person to tell me that, well, they should combine down at Russell Street and cut down on the schools. Littleton has 4 schools. And I guess the 4 schools were set up because they wanted to have a certain environment for students. I think at Shaker Lane, it has 415 or something like that children down there. So, and it only has kindergarten, first and second grade there, which means less students in the numbers. Tends to have given Littleton the edge, I believe, with turning out pupils with good education foundation here in the town of Littleton, because our students here in the town of Littleton has gone on after graduating here and done well. And I'm thankful and appreciate to the faculty that we have in this district of teaching our children. We should be thankful that we have such teachers that are dedicated and want to do the right thing. And we've been able to negotiate with contracts and not have teachers walking out the classroom striking and so forth and so on. That is a big plus in a community and in a district. We need to be thankful that we have people with the desire to teach and let the administrators work out the issues while they stay in the classroom educating the children. That is so important. And I thank them for that. Also, I'd like to talk about something that the town put together. This here is a debt exclusion for Shaker Lane and DPW financial plan that they put together. And this was dated going back to March of 2025. Although there are 6 that signed this. The chair of the select board, the chair of FinCom, the chair of the school committee, superintendents of schools, the town administrator, and assistant town administrator. The dates that they signed this goes back from the 26th of February through the 10th of April, 2025. This is a plan that they put together, and they said what they were going to do. In that plan, they talked about extra money that they wanted to pay down the debt on the Shaker Lane School. So they had an extra $500,000, $500,000 that they was going to pay starting in FY29 to FY46. And paying down that money over that period of time of 20 years, it ends up being $10 million. So that 77.5 million drops it down to 67.5. So we as taxpayers, our debt exclusion is going to be hit for that amount. So this is good that they have money that they're feeding into this system. However, there will be growth that's going to take place in this town. We don't know exactly what is going to go in totally at 550 King Street or 584 King Street. We know that they said housing is going to go in at 410 King Street. So when that developer starts to developing, which he's already started on building, I believe, 300 housing units at 550, but they're going to be the high-end units that's going to be built there, because that is what the bank is wanting him to do. So they can recover their money quickly, and he can get another loan to start up whatever estate he's going to do in that 550 King Street parcel up there. But there was concern last night about trying to have him to move faster. You cannot have a developer move any faster than he wants to move or she wants to move. We have to wait and see. My main concern, I'm going to be checking with the Chief Assessor Office here in the town of Littleton to find out, are we as residents going to continue to have to pay the taxes that the town is due for on the $606,000 yearly that they've been collecting since IBM moved out up there. And I believe that calculation was based on $60 million, I believe. So I want to find out, on the average, I think I paid like roughly $125. So I think the resident was paying like roughly about $125 in their taxes. If you didn't know that, you've been paying for the IBM property up there, if you didn't know it. And that should come off very shortly, hopefully, because now the developer has someone in those, at least one of those buildings up there. So I just want to let you know that there are things that in the pipeline that is coming, and when the new growth come in, hopefully the town will apply more money, because it says a minimum of $500,000, which means they got more to apply to the debt. They can also put that in there, and that will help pay it down and help close it out faster. I want to talk a little bit about a petition and why voters should vote for it at the town meeting. I have a petition, and the petition was based on the fact that this financial plan right here is what the town made a commitment to what they was going to do. So I saw fit that if you got extra money, as you say you're going to apply $500K to the Shaker Lane loan debt over 20 years. And you also was going to apply $500K towards the new DPW facility in FY31. So I said, that doesn't sound right. Because if the school is the most important thing and we got extra money, why ain't we taking that extra money, applying it to the debt? Instead of talking about building another facility. I sent a letter the 28th of August to FinCom, the Select Board. I sent copies to the school superintendent, the school committee, town clerk, and the chief assessor office. I pointed out in there, we're not going to build a new DPW. The citizens of Littleton, the taxpayers and the voters, should not build a new DPW because, for one, we do not need a new DPW. That's Department of Public Works that's located down at the Light and Water Complex. Why do we not need it? Because, one, DPW probably maybe have, say, a dozen employees, if they have that many. What's going to grow by DPW? What's growing? The town of Littleton is not going to grow in terms of getting larger. There may be more production within the confinement of the borders of Littleton, but it's not going to get any larger in size. And what I told them in there, the taxpayer should require this. If we're going to spend $45 million, that $45 million should be spent wisely, and we should get the maximum amount of goods and service out of $45 million. So if there's any place that we need to start thinking about doing, and then I told them that should be 10 years down the road from now, and that should be this building, which is the town hall building. We need to rehab this building so that if there is any expansion that takes place, we have extra space in this building to house that extra need. And we would also provide space in here for the head of the DPW to be at the town hall building. In the current building they have now down at the complex, White Light and Water and the DPW, we would take that portion and revamp that portion, because right now they don't have ladies' facility in that building. So we would put male and female toilets and lockers and so forth in that building, and we would put a break room area in there. They probably have a small one now, but we would put a break room area in there. We will put at least a couple training rooms in there. We could put a couple community rooms in there and put a small office for the supervisor, superintendent for the DPW there. And the third thing that we would need is that we would provide some sheds, maybe some closed shed based on what the need that they need to put in and need to be closed in. And we would provide open sheds where they can take equipment that is sitting outside now, could be undercover. That is all DPW needs. They do not need a new facility because Chelmsford, Westford, Acton, whoever, Groton, whoever, because they have new facility. That doesn't mean we need a new facility. Because I'm going to bring you some information here today and to show you how we got officials that wants to hoodwink you. We got hoodwinked when we did the center on Shattuck Street here, which is the COA. We got hoodwinked between that and the building up at 36 King Street. We was hoodwinked on that. That music building had more space than the space that they put in the building here on Shattuck Street. But they said it didn't have enough space. But it did. They hoodwinked us. We're not going to be hoodwinked again. And I'm going to bring it to you in a little bit here. They want to take and get the school all wrapped up and go out and get the loan and everything for FY30. That's in year 29. And get that on the way. Last night at this meeting, they also showed that they want in FY31, the next year, they want to build a new DPW facility. In this letter that I sent to them, I told them just what I spoke to you just a few moments ago. And I told them that they want to backdoor the DPW in on you and drop a deep debt exclusion into your pockets. They want to be like the Sly Fox. This is wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Because it ends up within 2 years, they want to put this town in such deep debt that we're talking about between what the school, 77.5 and 66.5 for DPW. It comes out to be $144 million. On that 66.5, I think the debt exclusion for taxpayers on the norm will be about $665. And on the school, it's like $700 and some dollars for the 77. We are a small town that consists of a population just a teeny bit over 10,000 people. That is a lot of debt, ladies and gentlemen. I said we have town officials that can't be trusted. This is not the way you do business. They put this together and sign it and put it up, and when someone comes to talk about it, then, it's no, we were just talking. There's nothing been put together. Well, if there's nothing been put together, why are you talking about you got an extra $500,000 to set aside to go in FY31 to pay for a new DPW facility. I also want to bring to your attention about the DPW facility, this debt exclusion on the Shaker Lane in the DPW. I want to read to you what they have down here about that facility. This is what they say. While the extra details of this facility are not yet known, initial estimates show the potential cost of this building to be approximately $45 million, period. No time frame for the project is currently set, comma, but it is likely to occur within the same period as the Shaker Lane School project. So, they are set to get Shaker Lane done and then do DPW. So I wanted you to know that. This is the extra money they're saying that they can come up with. And when I brought this to the chief, the chair of FinCom last night, he wanted to know what my petition was about because nobody had seen the petition. And I explained to him, this is what's going on. I'm real concerned about how the DPW get into the same conversation of building a new Shaker Lane school. Let me give you the cost of what they talk about in this plan right here that they put together. The 6 officials signed. The cost for DPW is $45 million. There's no state grant. This is all on you, the taxpayer. They have a minus of $3 million there during the construction, which leaves 42, which is the bond thing there, leaves 42 million plus the interest. The interest is 5%. They also have that scheduled over 20 years. The interest for 20 years for the 42 million is $24.5 million. Plus the 42 million gives you a grand total of $66.5 million. That's the total cost to you as a taxpayer. The annual payment on my figures here will run about $3,326,000 for that. If I didn't tell you, the annual payment for the school will be $3.880 million. So you can see that's a lot of money, ladies and gentlemen, that we would have to pay starting off with FY30, and then just a year later, they want to kick it in and say build a new DPW. Let me tell you one thing that we need to do as taxpayers. It was 2 years ago, I guess, that they put this truth on us, the select board and FinCom, to do a preliminary study of what it would cost to have a new DPW facility and also to do the Shaker Lane School. Those were the figures that came back, the $45 million for the DPW. And then it came back in with the $104.2 million for Shaker Lane School. And they reduced that down because they was talking about adding on to Shaker Lane, and then they wanted the same amount of money to add on to Shaker Lane as to build a new school. That just didn't make sense. That was not logical, that it cost the same to add on as it would to build a new one from the ground up. So they had to toss about that with regard and went with, we want to build a new school, but we want better figures than this. So that's why we're talking about building a new school. When you talk about the 77.5 and the 66.5, like I told you earlier, it's $144 million between the two, starting FY30, FY31. That is a lot of debt for a small town like Littleton, ladies and gentlemen. That is a lot of money. In the 66, these are net cost figures that we're dealing with. The state has already gave us for the school, and we at 77.7 or 77.5 at that. So that's all on us as taxpayers. We ain't getting no money for DPW, so the 66.5 is also all on us as taxpayers. What do they think that people are made out in this town when it comes to money? They think we just load it? You can't tell me that they really truly care how they conduct business here. It does not even make sense. If we barely get the school passed, and when you roll it in on FY30 and get the loan for it, you're going to come back the next year telling us you want to build a new DPW? I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I do not have stupid written across my forehead. This does not make sense. Why would we do that? What we need to do is change the way we do business on some things here in the town. At the annual meeting, I'm wanting to put in a petition because all it requires is 10 people. And I think I can find 10 people out there who will agree with me with what I'm about to say. Before the town comes at a town meeting and asking us to fund money for a preliminary study of whatever it is, building, buying, or whatever the case is, it must have had at least a minimum of 5 hearings on the subject matter that people feel good about and saying to the town, yes, we think that's a good idea to do this. And then they can put it on the warrant and it goes before the town, and then they can bring us up to date with the latest as to what is what. And then we can vote to say, okay, you can have X dollars to go out and do a preliminary study on this, or to go out and do a preliminary finding on what the best cost is for this item, or whatever the case is, before we make purchase of it. There should be discussions and public hearings about what they want to do, instead of they take it and put it together and put it up and say, okay, we need to do this. And you know what they come back and said to us? They said, oh, you voted for it at the town meeting. You did that 2 years ago. So we want to make sure that there's discussion that we know about before we go to the town meeting, and a majority of the people has had their input in at these hearings and have said what is what, and come to the conclusion, yeah, we think that's a show of hands, or whatever the case is at each hearing. Yeah, we think this is a good idea to go forth. And yeah, we agree, okay, you can put it on the warrant, and then bring us up to date with the latest at the town meeting, and then we'll vote on, we're going to give you X dollars to go out and do this. When have you heard about discussion of building a new DPW? What discussion did they have in public hearings before they put it on the warrant and put it out there? They like to consolidate. And furthermore, I told them last night, I was pointing out about this, which I did not bring up DPW, but the school, in my previous show, the school should have been separate. The financial plan should have been separate from DPW. The DPW should have never been in the same plan that the school is in. But it is. That plan that these 6 officials signed off on, as I said earlier, was between the 26th of February 2025 and the 10th of April 2025. They're trying to do this, get you on one thing and we get over on that, and then they hit you with something else. It's not a few dollars. We're talking about millions of dollars, plus with no assistance with the $1 million on the facility they want to build. I disagree. That shouldn't be the case. Our officials should be trustworthy, and they should come forth and tell us the truth about what. Don't try to push stuff in on us like this. This is wrong. And the chief of FinCom said, well, I'm going to stand up and probably have to talk down what you're trying to do, George, with that petition. And I told him, you're entitled to do that, sir. But I'm going to continue to do what I want to do here because I think it's the right thing, and it is helping the taxpayers as to how much money comes out of their pocket to pay for the debt exclusion on Shaker Lane School. You already done set the roadmap. You already signed it and put it in motion. And say you got extra money. I may have to modify because I'm asking the increase from the 500K to 1 million. I may have to modify it, but if I have to modify it at the town meeting, so be it. But you already committed and say you're going to do the 500. Now they want to renege and like saying, oh no, we don't have the money. Suppose we can't do this, can't do that. Well, you already put it in motion here and said that you got it. And said that that's what you're going to do. So all we are asking as taxpayers that you carry out what you say you're going to do. You already figured it out. You already signed it. You already stated when it's going to take place and what's going to happen. You did all of that. So now because someone comes along with a petition and now wants to say, okay, you need to do this every year for the next 20 years. Now you want to say, hold on. No, I don't know where I can do this or not. Because now someone is saying, this is what you did. You're the one that said the money is there. So all we asking you to do, and I think we as taxpayers should have the right once in a lifetime to tell town officials, we want you to take our money and apply it here. They may get upset. That's okay to get upset. But we have a right because all monies that they collect in this town belongs to the people. It's the people's purse that they're handling. Yes, I'm going to say we need to do right by the taxpayers in this town. You came up with the suggestion. You came up with the solution. You came up with the means. And now you want to renege. You need to ante up. That's what you need to do. You need to ante up. We're not going to stand back and not say anything. I had a gentleman that I collected a signature, and he said, let me tell you one thing. Out of all the years that I've been living in Littleton, he said the first time that the people ever said no to town officials when they wanted to take the town hall. He said, other than that, I have never heard them tell town officials no. This town been in existence for a long time. And I was talking to people that have been in this town a long time. So for them to say, based on their memory, this is the first time the town stood up against town officials. That means that the taxpayers has been willing, and especially our seniors, has been willing to fork over monies to the town to pay for this, to do that, and so forth and so on. As town officials, why can't you do right by taxpayers? You need to do right by us. And from where I stand, I don't see you being right in terms of doing things like it should be done right. Like when you come up and y'all make the decision, y'all came up with the solution, y'all come up with the ideas, and you say we can do this and this is what we're going to do because you put it in writing and then you turn around and sign it. And because the citizen petition wants to come forth and say, okay, we want you to do this. Now you want to say, oh, well, don't know where we had. Well, this is what you said. And then I say, you're a slide fox because you want to backdoor in on the DPW in FY31. You want to build a new facility. So don't tell me that you're being up front with us. You want to hoodwink us again. It appears to me you can't be trusted. We need to trust people that are our appointed and elected leaders. You need to do right by the people. And you're not doing it. Don't try to slide no DPW facility in on us. We're a town of a little over 10,000. And should we have a debt of $144 million for 2 facilities that we need to pay off? You're talking about between $1,400 to $1,600 a year that taxpayers would pay. It depends on your assessment of your property. It's tough trying to handle one. And what I said to you today, ladies and gentlemen, we need to put forth the Shaker Lane School, pass the Shaker Lane School, and the second time, the taxpayers in this town and voters in this town need to say no to town officials on a new DPW facility. We need to get that word N-O in our vocabulary. But I ask you gracefully to come out for the town meeting on October the 28th and pass the school, Shaker Lane, and on the 1st of November, pass it on the ballot for Shaker Lane. We owe that to the children that is in our town. We owe that to them. And having said that, ladies and gentlemen, God bless each and every one of you. And be thankful for the day that He has given us. Because I am. Have a good evening.